I'm assuming everybody can hear me. Fabulous. Well, first of all, thank you all for coming on this very very wet evening. Today is our second program in the Entrepreneurship 101 series. If you haven't come to the last one, that's okay. We have two more programs coming up in June and July. I'll be giving you a little information about that in just a second. Today, the program is called Starting and Growing Your Business, Your Small Business. And the presenter today is Trisha White. Trisha is the Small Business Development Officer for NeighborWorks Housing Solution and also has her own marketing and branding company. Before I hand over the program to Trisha, I do have a couple of housekeeping points and the two programs I want to promote. Housekeeping is that if you need to go to the restroom, there is one on this floor and three downstairs. Also, we have water fountain right here. And there's a bubbler outside as well. And I please ask that you silence your cell phones so we can all enjoy this very, very important presentation. Now for the promotions of the program. So this next program in this series is coming June 9th, which is a Monday. And we have 3 local business leaders coming in to give presentation about their own experiences in starting their business in and around Norwood. And the program after that is in July, which it's on Thursday, July 10th at I think 7 p.m. And we have a presenter who is going to teach how to create your own website for your small business. So if you would like to sign up for either one of those, feel free to do so. The July program is not live on our calendar yet, so whenever it is, but the June program is. So feel free to sign up, or you can stop by the desk and the librarian will sign you up for that program. And now, please join me in welcoming Trisha.
Good evening. Can everyone hear me? I'm not someone who leans in too much. Thank you, Darshana, for bringing me in. I am, like Darshana said, I am the Small Business Development Officer for NeighborWorks Housing Solutions. NeighborWorks Housing Solutions is a residential assistance program for people living in southeastern Mass. I'm a little bit of an anomaly. I'm the only one that does the business program. I do it through a grant through Mass Development, which is a quasi-business, quasi-private business development company. So I've been doing this part-time with them for the past 4 years, but a lot of my experience comes from working for different parts of the SBA. So I used to work for the Mass Small Business Development Center. I presently work part-time for the Rhode Island Small Business Development Center. And I also have my own consulting firm. So I have my hands are in quite a few fires right now, but a few of them will slowly, kind of die down. So tonight, this is based on a 6-hour boot camp that we normally teach called Building a Better Business Boot Camp. And what we decided to do was give a shortened version of what it entails, because part of it is trying to get you to write some form of business plan. When people go into business, they don't necessarily put a plan together because in their head it works. So what we're trying to get you to do is really identify the things that are important and make sure that you start writing about them. You don't have to stick to an actual business plan, but to have something where you have a plan on what you want to do is really important. So I'm going to begin. So the first key tools to what we're going to go over tonight are, formulating that idea, looking at your personal brand, marketing research. We're going to look at legal structure, building your team, marketing strategy, financial management, funding, and then business resources. So I'm going to cut out just real quick and just tell you, there is a link that we're going to send you after this class, and it's going to go to a workbook that has everything that you need from this presentation. So I want you to be able to sit back tonight and just kind of listen and take it in, because there's going to be a lot of information. Your head's going to spin, and I want you to be able to come out of it going, all right, I have some idea of what's going on, and I'll show you the workbook at the end of the presentation. So the first is, you need to know 46% of the businesses out there are not going to make it past year 5. And this is a stat from SBA, and it has stayed the same even through the pandemic. And some of the reasons for business failure, probably number one, there's no need in the marketplace for that product or service. So a lot of times people come forward and they're like, I think people need this. But what I want you to do is really research it and find out whether it's really needed. Lack of a targeted marketing strategy. A lot of times I'll ask people, who's your target audience? Who's your competition? And you don't know how often people say to me, I don't have any competition. So right there, you kind of know you haven't done your homework yet. Lack of funding. For a lot of small businesses, you're not really eligible for any form of loan for the first 2 years you're in business. There are some small business loans that you can get, but most banks, they want to see some form of, sales and projections, and they want to see that you filed your taxes, that you're claiming the money that you're making. And lastly, inadequate management or business planning. There's a lot of us. I write business plans all the time, but even for my own consulting business, I didn't write a plan. So what happens is sometimes we roll into things, but what we want you to do is really step back and really think about what it is you want to do and how you can get to your goals. So as you research your ideas, one of the things I want you to think about is, what is your end goal for this? Like, what's your end strategy? Because is this something that you want to grow for the next 25 years? Or is it something that you just want to have a plan to be able to end at a certain period of time? When my husband had left his law firm and decided to go out on his own, he had 15 years to really look at what he wanted to do. And I said to him, do you want to just close up your office at the end of 15 years? Or do you want to be able to do something with it? And he's like, I'd like to have a staff. I'd like to have people around me. So that's what we did. We kind of backed him in from that 15 years and said, okay, you need staff at this point, and this point, and this point, and this point. And we put together a strategy so that at the end of 15 years, he can leave what he's doing. So first thing is formulating an idea. So you get this great idea, you talk to a few people and like, oh my God, that's amazing, you should do it. But now you really have to take it to the next step and say, all right, what do I need in this new idea? So the first is you have to challenge your assumptions. You need to go out there and do some form of research and investigate pain points, because people are going to make decisions based on a pain point, whether it's feeling good or feeling bad about something. Think to yourself, how often do you move on something? It's usually when you're having a struggle with it. Think in reverse. What caused the problem? So what caused the problem for you to have to go after it to have a product that works? Get fresh perspectives. Meet with people. Come sit down with me. I love to brainstorm. I'll sit down with an hour and just make your head spin. But it's worth, kind of looking at it through somebody else's eyes. Storyboarding. How many people storyboard here? Doing that research. Pinterest is huge, putting a lot of ideas in one place. Interview people that you may have as customers or clients. And finally, look at those who are already in the industry. What are they doing on social media? Are you following them? Are you getting their email newsletter? Start looking at what they're doing. Because every business needs assistance in these 3 areas. And I always look at it almost like a stool. There are 3 legs on that stool. And if you're missing one, the stool's going to tip. So I think you need to set things up in a legal capacity. You also have to do your marketing. And you have to look at financing. Like, what do you have to bring in and what do you have to pay every month in order to make a profit? But every individual needs basically 2 things, and that is industry skills. A lot of people will jump into a new industry with no experience, and I'll say to them, are you working with a mentor? Are you doing anything to kind of learn more about that industry? Because sometimes we don't realize how things function. And even myself, people go into bakeries all the time and they think, whatever the products are in the cases are what they sell. But probably more than 50% of what they make is wholesaled. And if you don't understand that, you're all of a sudden like, I want to go into a bakery and just sell cupcakes. That's a great idea. Are you going to sell enough out the door in the front end, in those cases? Or do you have people that are going to be able to purchase them from you at a cheaper price and much more in bulk? The other thing is a personal brand. If your brand isn't, if you aren't growing your personal brand and you're kind of hiding, then what happens is you're going to work twice as hard to get your name out there. So let's look at personal brand. 60% of consumers are more likely to engage with a business led by a recognized leader, and up to 77% may be more likely to purchase from a company with a founder having a robust social media presence. How many people here use LinkedIn? Oh, excellent, excellent. Because that is one of the places that I get people to start, because that's where you're connecting with people. You're going to be connecting with people who can help you in a B2B capacity and a B2C capacity. And they want to get to know, like, and trust you. Because if they get to know, like, and trust you, then they'll try, they'll buy, and they'll advocate for you. So the more you have a team of people that are following you and thinking that this is amazing, I want to follow that person, they're going to buy your products and services, and they're the ones that are going to go out and talk about it. So we kind of look at it as this is grassroots. This isn't even being on the internet yet. This is just grassroots. So make sure, if you haven't visited your LinkedIn recently, and this is something that I've been doing quite a bit lately, and that is LinkedIn refreshes. It was kind of a set and forget. People set it up, they connected with people, and then it's just really been sitting there. So if you haven't updated your picture, or maybe your banner, or gone through and just kind of changed up some of your content, it's probably worth doing. So number 3, market research. So the biggest question I'm going to ask is, why do I want to buy from you? So what is your unique selling proposition? How is it that I want to buy from you? What are the benefits of what you have? Because if somebody is out there and they're like, well, I want to open up a pizza shop, but there are 3 pizza shops already open, what's going to make me want to go to your pizza shop over someone else's? So have you really thought that up to think, if there are all these things here, once again, is there too many things in the marketplace and I'm just kind of adding to it? Or do I have something unique to offer that, could be the same as what's out there, but definitely different, that would make you want to buy? And how unique are you from your competition? You've got to look at it as who's around me and what are they selling? And I have to be able to make sure that I get that information out there to them. If you've got more experience, if it's better quality, if you have a certain target audience that you direct everything to. But who is your ideal customer in all this? And I'm going to go through all of these things of how to identify who they are. So the first is, I want you to understand search. That is the beginning of everything right now. Search over the past 6 months has changed dramatically because of AI. And what's happening is it's not really helping the small business owner. So if you understand how search functions, I think it's a lot easier as you go into business or consider going into business. You'll have in your head, I need to think about how I'm going to sell things in this capacity. So I'm going to walk through. Before I do that, I'm going to tell you about micro moments. So a micro moment is when somebody is in a situation where they want to know something, go somewhere, do something, or buy something. And in that micro moment, 70% of people are going to leave brand loyalty. So I want you to watch this video. I want you to look at it for 2 things. The first is, do you see yourself in it? The second is, what type of pain point would your customer or client be in when they were getting on their phone and looking for information? How many of you saw yourself in that? This video is 10 years old, and you can still see how in that moment we are making those decisions. Micro Moments had a huge comeback last year, probably because we're looking at platforms today where we have the ability to buy immediately. We don't have to go back to someone's website in order to purchase something. I can purchase right from Instagram. I can purchase from Pinterest. I can purchase from Etsy if I want. But I don't have to go back to a person's website in order to get that product or service. So what I want to show you is just how much search has changed. And I can honestly tell you, I probably ran these like 3 months ago, and I probably should have updated them. But the one thing that you're not seeing at the top of this right now is AI. And that's what we're seeing when you do Google. So the first thing you're seeing is AI Gemini. And it sits up at the top, and it's going to give you a broad overview of what you're looking for. But then it's going to walk into what's called Google Business Profile. So these first three that you're going to see are probably the most important. They're closest to, whatever your IP address is for your search, or it's a near me. But we're going to be able to see those three closest. You're not seeing a lot of competition. Then, if I click on the and more, it's going to open it up to a lot more for me to be able to see. And if you look right here, you can see ratings. So what's happening now, I have the ability to rate what I want to see. So I only want to see businesses that have 4.5 stars and above. So if you don't have 4.5 stars and above, guess what? I'm going to wipe you out of the Google Business Profile just for what I'm searching for. But if you look, this is a Google Business Profile. I am going to go more in depth into it, but you can see the basics to it, and that is, there's a picture, there's a logo, the website, some of them will have scheduling, but this is basically what it looks for, and it's very important, along with your website, to have a Google Business Profile. So there's that search that I was telling you about. And when that does open up, did you notice how many more people are there? There are a lot more. Why? Because originally Google Business Profile allowed you to have one industry or one category, and that's all you could fall under. So myself as a marketing consultant, that's all I could do. I couldn't do web design. I couldn't do graphic design. I could only pick one. And then your location was based on where your business was set up. Now they allow you to have 15 locations. You have to be located in one spot, but your ability to show up in so many other places has now broadened. So that's great for small businesses, but for local businesses, they have a lot of competition that they're going to now deal with. Underneath that, we're seeing a few organic, but basically what we're starting to see is a lot of directories. Reddit is huge right now. The discussion board is massive. Quora, they've brought up from the dead, for anyone who was ever on Quora back in 2017. But all of these discussion directories are coming back up again. Also, Yelp, TripAdvisor, if you're doing anything in the home industry, Houzz, these are all these directories that they now want to see you on. And then we have featured snippets. Those are questions. Those are questions that we're asking through, Alexa and Siri. They're questions that we're asking in AI right now, but they're also questions that sit on our websites. So a lot of these are being pulled from FAQs. Then we are seeing the discussions in the forums. So when you think about it, there were 10 spaces that used to be available on search, and it was Google Business Profile, and then those 10 organic websites. Now, you're only going to see 3 or 4 because they're now competing for space amongst directories and discussion boards. And then lastly, they're going to show you a bunch of pictures, and then they're going to say, is this really where you want to go? So now, if you didn't find what you were looking for, I can just now click on it and get a brand new search. 95% of the people out there aren't going to make it to the second page. So if you aren't showing up on your Google Business Profile, or you don't have, and I don't think it has to be a robust, but at least a searchable website or a local website, the chances are you're probably showing up on the second or third page. So now you're not only servicing your website, you have to make sure that you're in directories, you're having discussions, you have FAQs and facts. So it's a combination of things that you need. And the one big thing to remember, I work with a lot of small businesses in huge marketing capacities. And when I get their websites and they're like, I'm not showing up, I don't know what's wrong, and I'll say to them, if I didn't know the name of your business, what keywords am I putting in a search to find you? And I think it's hard because years ago we were taught, get your keywords in there. So everyone would stuff in their keywords to the point that content didn't even make sense. And then it was like, oh, you can't keyword stuff anymore because if you do, you're going to get penalized. Now we want you to tell a story. So now everyone takes a lot of their keywords out and it's just a story. But the story kind of tells what you're going to do or the experience you're going to feel from what they do, and they're not putting their keywords in. Now people are asking questions. So are your keywords in there? Are your questions in there? There's so many different pieces because things change all the time. So start thinking to yourself, if I was going to go into business and people didn't know my name, what keywords do I need to start writing down? Or should I be trying them on the internet to see who's coming up? Because it's going to help me to identify maybe some of my competition. So customer profiles, you're going to hear that question from a mentor. So who's your target audience? Who's your customer? And the greatest answer is everyone. Everyone's my customer. It's like, no, not really. Well, yeah, people between 18 and 65 buy my products. Not really. You have a set group of people that are there. So what we can do is we can identify kind of their generation, and then we can look at their psychographics. So let's go really quickly into the generations. And that is, we have the baby boomers. They are still the largest generation and the most financially, they have the most money, the richest one right now. They like new technology. They might be a little slow to get into it. Traditional marketing works on them. So if you want to send a postcard, you can send a postcard to them, but you can still add a QR code. You can still add your website. But we all enjoy walking out to get the mail. Brand loyalty, if they like something, they will stick with it. So knowing that they like that type of thing. Plus, they're not being advertised too much. So people look at them and go, I don't really need to advertise to them. They're probably advertising to the millennial children. Gen X, definitely more financially secure. They like email marketing. They like social media. They love loyalty programs. If you ask me, I would say probably Gen X was really good at Groupon. They liked those deals and what they could get from them. Millennials, most marketed by brands. Peer recommendations. They are looking to see what their friends like. How often do you see something on social media where it says your friend or someone that you know likes this? Because the minute they like it, what happens? We're going to look at it. So they look for those peer recommendations. They will research everything. I own 4 millennials. They will research everything. My daughter will come to me and go, Mom, you got to see this thing. It's got this many stars. It has this, it has that. But she will dig deep to figure out what's going on. And they will follow brands. So if you are a brand that they happen to like, they will actually follow you. Gen Z, definitely short video content. They like to have everything in bites. They are enjoying the shorts, the reels, and the TikToks. That's where they get their news. And influencer marketing is huge with them. That's what everyone wants to be. They want to be an influencer marketer. And then we have Gen Alpha, and we just had the last of Gen Alpha. So starting this year is Gen Beta, and they will truly be the first digital natives, where they are being born in a time where AI is robust, at least at this point, and everything is digitally based. They're going to grow up in households where Alexa and Siri and the rest of them have been talking for a while, that people are having conversations with machines. But right now, what they're saying is surveys show that millennials are paying attention to what their kids are looking for. So they're listening. You know, us as parents, we were like, we'd look at a few things, we'd see whether we could afford it. Was there something that we could give them that was close to that? But I think sometimes when people are doing a lot of research, like the millennials do, they're listening to their kids and they're finding the products that they're looking for. So now let's take that a step further. If I have a cleaning company and I know what my customer demographic is, and I can say, it's Danielle, she's single, she loves to travel, she talks about it all the time, I looked her up on LinkedIn and I know she's got an engineering degree, she's doing fine, owns 2 dogs, so she has this demographic, and I can take this and I can put it into AI. And the nice part to it is, it's going to give me a psychographic. What's even better than a demographic, because now it's going to tell me what their expectations are. So she's going to research cleaning companies, and she's going to look for reviews and recommendations online. So if you don't have a lot of great stars and she can't find you online, guess what? Missed opportunity. And then she values transparency. A lot of people don't want to put pricing on their website, but you get 1 or 2 people that do put their pricing on there, and it doesn't have to be it's $250 or it's $150. Prices start at. They're looking for something. They're looking for some form of point to all of this. Looking for personalization. Do you cater to the specific needs? So if I have, I bought AECO. I'm not sure what that, eco-friendly. I'm thinking to myself, there's a mistake there. Wasn't sure what it was. But they are looking for eco-friendly. And that is, the cleaning materials that they're using, are they going to, affect my pets? They want the recommendations, but convenience. One of the things that, if she's 37, she's a millennial. What is she looking for? Convenience. She wants to be able to book online. It doesn't necessarily mean that she has to book an appointment. Maybe it's just a 15-minute discussion to figure out what it is. But if a millennial doesn't want to pick up their phone and there are 3 people there and one of them has book online with fairly decent reviews and they use eco-friendly products, chances are pretty good that's where they're going. So part of this helps you to understand what the expectation is, that if you were thinking, I don't want to put a calendar on there, maybe you need to look at your competition and look at who your demographic is to understand what they're looking for. But the neat thing with doing these psychographics on AI is you can run them a number of times with different scenarios. But what you'll find after a while is there's a consistency in some of the things that they're looking for and some of the things that definitely are just different between all of them. But it helps to kind of identify how you want to market to them. And just a little piece on AI, and it's in the workbook also, but there are free tools for those who don't know. Gemini, Copilot, and ChatGPT are probably the top 3 right now. I know that there are so many AI tools out there. It just depends on what you're most comfortable with. But the biggest thing with AI is just doing the prompts, asking the right questions. So I'm usually, you'll see this is my prompt to see what I can get. What I try and do is load it with as much information as possible so that it's going to give me that psychographic of what I may need at the end of the day. So your competition. Talked a little bit about that, but with competition, I think you have to remember, you have direct competition, and these are things that you should be looking at, such as, I like to use my pizza for an example, just because you can have 2 pizza places that are sitting on 2 different corners of your city or town, and more than likely they have the same sales, they have the same amount of people working there, and they probably have basically the same product. But if suddenly indirect competition means maybe I want to go somewhere that gives me a bigger selection. I like to use Bertucci's, even though they've gone out of business, but let's say I wanted to go to Bertucci's. They're much bigger. They're a nationally known brand. These local people aren't really competing with them, but they can ride their coattails if they want, but they have to identify them and say, if someone is at the mall and they don't make it into the downtown, the chances are pretty good that they may go there. And then what happens for replacement? I don't want pizza tonight. I want something different. So if I have $25, where am I going for dinner? And lastly, potential future. What is coming in the industry? So that's something that you should be looking at too when you're doing your research. If you want to go into this industry, look at what some of the trends are. Are the trends continuing out towards a certain time? Are there new things that are changing? I worked with a company that does basically phone repair, and they do gaming. But they were always looking ahead, and one of the things he started to move into was drone repair. He goes, anyone can fix a smartphone, but he says, are my competitors starting to train on drones? Because he goes, that's the next thing that's going to be coming in. And he was right. I mean, he's seeing a lot of that now as people are doing more with drones. So ways to identify your competition. First, use a few keywords and get into a Google search. That's usually going to pull up exactly what is there. You can go on to a thing called WordStream. This link is in there, but basically what you do is you put, if you have a website, you can put yours in, but put your competitors in there and it will list their top keywords that they're using on their website. Not a bad thing, especially if it's a nicely, professionally done website that probably has all the right keywords on it. If you have your own, you can also throw your own in and it will tell you how well your keywords are. It's a free system. It's going to give you 25 of the top keywords, but it's not a bad thing to be able to use. Monitor social media conversations. My old boss used to say, steal with dignity, because an idea is probably not the newest idea, but watch what they're doing and if they're engaging with people, because if they are, maybe some of the things that they're using could work on what you're doing. You can do trends, so you can run trends on Google, which is also a lot of fun. Put a number of keywords in, it will tell you how they're coming up. You can look at it and go, I want to see how they're working over the past year. I want to see how they're working in the United States, but now I want to bring it down to Massachusetts. I want to bring it down to what's going on Cape Cod. So it's a nice way to see how different areas use different keywords. And lastly, ask people. Ask people what they would be looking for. You know, your customers and clients are going to tell you, you know, if you weren't buying from me, who would you be buying from? And why would you go there? And try and see if you can get some of their information. So some marketing research tools, like I said, trends is in there. Create some surveys. I do surveys all the time. So, you know, for this summer, I already told my places, I'm not teaching this summer. I'm redoing all of my programs, but I'm going to do it based on the survey that I have out there. So I have a few people that have answered and I'm going to put it out another time, but if I can get 50 people, what I'll start doing is breaking that down to see what programs they're looking for. Ask Gemini about trends that are going on. And then there is a thing called IBIS World. And what it does is it kind of tracks trends within industries. It's something that you have to have a membership for, but libraries have it for free. So I would say ask a librarian, and they will tell you what's going on in the industry, whether it's flatlining, whether it's growing, and if it is growing, how far does the growth go out to? I mean, you can look at the pet industry and they'll say that growth is going to be continuing through 2035. Wedding industry, 2032. So it gives you some idea of, am I jumping into an industry that could be, you know, growing or dying? And you may want to know that before you jump into it. So legal structure. So you've decided you want to go into business, maybe you need a legal structure. I think what you're going to find is it breaks up basically into more like 2 rather than 4, and that is you're either a sole proprietor where you're working by yourself, you don't want to have any employees, you're just, you know, you're kind of doing your job, making some money, filing your tax returns, that's all you want to do. Then you move into like LLCs, LLPs, S Corps and C Corps, where you're really looking for some form of legal protection. And you want that because maybe you have assets or you have, you know, you own different things, assets that you want protected. And I always tell people before you decide to figure out what you want to do, if you're a sole proprietor, you don't need to see a lawyer. But if you're deciding on some form of legal structure, make an appointment and sit down with a lawyer and tell them what you have and what you're trying to do and whether you need some type of protection through one of these entities. Then we also have nonprofit and not-for-profit, so those are 501c3s. I always tell people, don't start a for-profit as a nonprofit. We get people who do that all the time, where they'll say, well, you know, I'm going to be selling this product, but I really want it to be a nonprofit. And I'm like, I have a better idea. How about you be a for-profit? You make money, and then you can put it back into your nonprofit. Because nonprofit status, you're rolling that money over all the time. And just because you're nonprofit, yes, you can write things off and you're eligible for grants and things like that, but it's still hard work. I wish more nonprofits would function like a for-profit because I think the outcome could be different. So if you decide that you're going to go into business, you can use what's called an SS4 form, whether you want to be a sole proprietor or under any of the business entities. Basically what it is it's a social security number for your business. And I'm a sole proprietor. I have one. Why? Because if I have to fill out W-9s as a consultant, I'm putting my social security number on there. Not that it probably hasn't been breached in everything that's going on today, but it's still, you can use it as some form of protection. So having an SS4 number isn't a bad thing. You can get it at the IRS. It comes within a half hour. It used to be 24 hours. Now it's within a half hour. If you have any taxes, the Mass Tax Connect is also here, so that would be for withholding tax, even if you had to pay estimated tax, meals, and the rest. And then Secretary of State. Secretary of State is where you're going to register any one of the legal corporations. You don't have to register a sole proprietor with the Secretary of State, but most times if you're looking to open up a bank account, a business bank account, they want some type of certificate of good standing. So you usually go to the city or town of where you live, you pay $150 or whatever their fee is, and they'll give you a certificate. You'll walk into a bank, you can set up your commercial bank account at that point. So what are some of the taxes that you're going to see? So if you decide you're going to have some employees, you're going to have withholding tax. So you're responsible for filing federal, state, and you will match Social Security. So one of the things that I always tell people when you are hiring, as much as you can sit there and say, well, I'm going to pay them $20 an hour, and that's what you put them in to your plan as, it's always more than that, because you figure you're matching Social Security. You may also be giving them a benefit. Maybe they need $200 a month to go towards their medical insurance, health insurance. There's sales tax, which is 6.25, same with meals. And then there's hotels tax, which actually can fluctuate. It sits at 5.7, but depending on what areas they're in, they can charge local city taxes. So why is a lawyer important? Number one, to help create the right entity. A lot of people just go out and they'll just kind of set it up and they're like, oh, I knew that's what I needed. And sometimes it's worth sitting down with somebody, even if it's just for a half hour. They will also review all sorts of agreements, rental agreements. If you have any legal documents that you want people to sign, don't pull them off the internet, because any good lawyer will tell you that they can poke holes in it. And what you're looking for is something that protects you, not somebody else. So sitting down with somebody and saying, can I use these? Or if you're getting ready to lease something, I don't care if the owner of the building tells you, this is the lease and this is the way it's going to stay. That's okay. Go to a lawyer and have them explain what you're going to be responsible for, before you sit down and sign that. And then there's trademarks and intellectual property. So if you do have things like that, before you start down that road, and we see people do it all the time, they'll go in and they'll start a business, they'll get a logo and they'll get it trademarked. And we're like, don't. Stop before you spend too much money. Sit down and talk with somebody and say, is this something I should be trademarking? Because most lawyers will sit down and say, you're either not ready for that, or maybe you have something that, yes, does need a trademark. But before you go down that route, talk to somebody who can probably give you the right, put you in the right direction so you're not spending too much money. So building your team. So who do you have around you in all of this? And this is where we go back to, get a lawyer, get somebody who if you need to make a phone call or they've helped you start up, put everything into legal form, they're a great person to have. Accountants are the same way. They're going to help you with your tax liabilities. They're going to file your taxes for you. And these things are important if in the future you decide, I want to go for a loan. I want to go for a business loan. You're going to need your taxes filed, and you need them filed correctly. Marketing. Please don't, you're going to hear me go really heavy in marketing tonight, but please don't take marketing lightly. I think what happens is people go into business and they put so much into setting up their legal stuff, figuring out what their taxes are going to be, and they get certain things put together, and then they say, I'm not sure about marketing. So have marketing on there, even if it's someone who's advising you in it. Use mentors. It's amazing how banks will come forward and say, when you're working with someone from the SBDC or from SCORE or any of those agencies, they know that you're getting good, business assistance that is professional, and they're bringing their expertise to the table. So now, let's look at a marketing strategy. The first is define your brand and what their values are going to be. What is that personality that you're going to bring to the table? Then create your why. We don't look at what, how, why. We look at why, how, what. And if you look at anything from Simon Sinek is a leadership speaker. He speaks on why all the time. And the reason why we start with why is because why is the passion behind what you're doing. And how many people have gone to a networking event? Probably all of us. What do we start with? What? What do you do? And you tell them, I'm a marketing consultant. Okay, that's nice. But if you ask me why I'm doing what I'm doing, I will tell you, I've been a small business owner. I understand the struggles that small businesses go through. And if I can teach them how to do their marketing more effectively and efficiently, then they have a better chance of success. Now, if I start with that, I'm starting with my passion. So the more we can bring our passion into our marketing, it's a lead to get people to listen. Develop your brand tools. So some of the first things that I tell people to create is, get your name down, figure out your domain, and get your logo. Those are the first things, because then I'm going to bring you through a process of what we normally follow. And please, 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 when you choose your name, because I'm running into this, it's funny, I haven't run into it a lot, but lately I've had 4 different people that have come in who have domain names that are so close to a domain that's already out there doing the exact same thing that one of the accounts actually got blacklisted. So Google thought that this individual was copying, it was a fake website, and they were copying the website of the original because it was a trucking company, and it was like Johnson Trucking and Johnson's Trucking. So what happened was they started to, all of a sudden, we couldn't pull up their website. So go out and look. And if the .com is taken, don't go into a .org, don't go into a .co, don't go into a .net. Change the name. And if the name that you have has somebody doing the exact same thing, change the name. The confusion that goes on online, especially when you're the second one coming into it, you're not going to win. At the end of the day, you're going to lose. So choose a name that isn't being used or is original and isn't really close to what someone else is using. And remember, it takes 18 to 36 months to basically establish a brand. And this is where companies go out of business within that 5-year period. Because if you haven't been able to establish that brand at the end of 36 months, you're struggling. And you don't have another 18 months or 36 months to continue doing that. So I always look at it and go, you have one shot to really get your brand out there. And if you have a strong personal brand, you're already a little bit ahead of the game. But I just said to my boss recently, I've been doing this almost 4 years. I said to her, I think our brand is finally catching on. We're doing more work with economic development groups. We're doing, there were all these things that were just kind of falling into place. And I think it's because we've been out there kind of boots to the ground for the past 3 years. And I feel like it's coming a little bit easier, but that's what you need. You need to be able to look at it at the end of 3 years and go, are we doing what we need to do? So digital presence, number one. You need a website. You need a website, you need a website. You can't rely on Facebook, and you can't rely on all of these platforms to be able to give you or deliver you customers. But 42% of customers will leave a website that's poorly designed because they're looking for products and services. We have the attention span of gnats. If we can't figure out a website within the first 15 seconds, what do? Scroll, gone. We're going to move on. So I think you have to look at it and say, what does my competition have? Because if my competition has a really good website, I can't go out there and build it myself. So make a website a priority. So this is my slight mantra that I go through all the time, and I lose my mind with certain groups, and that is, I can say to somebody, I know, I don't know if you can see this that well, but the conversation is, are you going to hire a lawyer? And it's like, of course I'm going to hire a lawyer. I don't want to be sued. You're going to hire an accountant? Of course I'm going to hire an accountant because I want to make sure my taxes are filed and I don't want to get audited. And then you go, are you going to hire somebody to do your marketing? No. I'm going to get my sister's mother's cousin's brother's friend do it because they know how to use a smartphone. Your brand, you have just spent all this money on creating a brand. And what have you done? Thrown it off the cliff. I used to work with a few people and they would go into these, we'd all go in and teach together. And one of them would go, just go to your local college and have one of the college kids build you a website. And my head would just about explode during it. And I'd be gripping the side of the thing and going, oh, it's your brand. If you don't know what you need and you're going to tell someone who's inexperienced, I don't know what I need, what do you think I need? You're going to get that. Just this horribly built website. And if your competition has something better, that's where they're going to be. And building your own website, there is a whole template that we use. So I work with a girl, Kerry, who you saw in the presentation. But we have a whole formula on how it works because we make sure that not only is it well designed, but that there's SEO and there's content and everything. But this is a standard that if you do want to build it yourself, you can. I always say to people, if you want to build a Wix website, build a Wix website. Just don't touch anything that's in it. You basically load the template and you go, how can I fit everything in this without moving one thing around? Because the minute you start moving things around, what happens is you throw all of the, kind of all of the coding off, and then you really just can't get it back. And so, it's going to take you a lot of hours to do it too. I've built website over the years. I don't want to build websites. I don't. I'm too much of a perfectionist. It takes me too long. And then I know the basics, but I don't want to get into the code. I can code if I have to, but why? I always look at it and say, what is your time and talent worth? And even if it's worth $50 an hour, do $50 an hour times 60 hours, because it's going to take you that long to put it together. And it's not as easy drop and drag anymore, because now you have to kind of set everything for both your laptop and your smartphone. Okay, so the way we go through things is we say, customize colors and fonts. And we will usually get those from your logo and pull those in and set them within the website. We do a front page design, and that is dynamic banner with a call to action. Next section, a little bit about the company. Then, what are your products and services? Events and blogs. About the owner, if the owner has an important role in the business. And then we have testimonials. You may have, groups and organizations that you're associated with if you want those to scroll after. But our goal is that everything on the front page should mirror what is sitting in your menu. Because if we can get you on the first page, we want you to move off of one page. Because a one-page website means you're going to have a large bounce rate. Bounce means I come to one page, I look at it, and then I leave. Doesn't matter how long I stay on it. So if you have a one-page website, I go to your website, that's it. So what we want them to do is move into the interior pages. So every part of the front page, you will notice in most websites, the front page stays that way. Then each item on the front page connected to the menu bar. FAQs we put in there, and that's normally in the menu bar. You don't need to have those on your front page or a gallery. 300 to 500 words. If you don't have 500 words on the front page, you get what's called a low content from Google. Keywords that are associated with, how would people find my products and services? Good quality photos. Don't steal them, because it's really easy today with Google Lens, and it's been easy for a long time for me to drag a picture into a search bar, and then it's just going to pop up where all the pictures come from. I was looking at a girl's website the other day, and I'm looking at this one picture. I'm like, was this one of yours or stock? She's like, oh, I got it off the internet. I go, you want to hope that that's not a Getty image, because that's the way they're going to find you. They're just going to take that image, pull it into a search, and everybody who uses that image is going to come up. So don't steal anything from the internet. And if you have pictures that are yours, it works a lot better than a stock photo. Social media buttons, and then after you build your website, create all of your marketing materials after that. People kind of go into it and they'll get their logo and they'll want a business card and they'll get a brochure, and then 2 years later they'll finally get the website and there's nothing that's coordinated. So when we build, what we say is build your website and then take all of that and just share it on your social media. Make it all look cohesive. So make that, it just becomes easy. All your content is there, all your pictures are there, all you're doing is transferring them over to other places. So SEO, we add SEO to these things so that you can be found. So it's keywords, it's meta titles and meta descriptions, which are, on the front page. Basically what they're doing is describing what it is that you do. We use header tags, and directories are huge right now. So wanting you to be in directories is part of SEO, and that's what we were seeing in that search. We have a new thing for you to take into consideration. That's AEO, Answer Engine Optimization. And that means, is your content written in a way that it answers questions? Because we're asking a lot of questions. Digital tools. How do we get people to go over and visit our website? We use a number of tools. So email newsletters are going to direct people back, because we can start a blog article and say, if you want to see the rest of it, come over to our website. All the people that we connect with, so that personal brand and connections, writing blog articles, allowing those to be indexed, joining chambers, groups and organizations, getting reviews so that you have 5 stars, your Google business profile, text message marketing, video and podcasts are huge right now, FAQs, using certain social media. Right now, the most common 3 that people will use are LinkedIn, Facebook, and Meta, unless you're in a certain industry that has them using different ones. And then after we're done, we analyze and measure. That's usually done through Google Business Profile. Has a nice robust analytics, so it can kind of tell you how people are reaching you there. Social platforms such as Facebook, Instagram, they all have some form of insight or analytic in the background. We put Google Analytics and Google Search onto our websites. Google Analytics will tell us how people get to the website and how they move around the website. Google Search Console, basically what we do is we flip it over and we get into the code and we say, all right, can you track what keywords they were using to get here and what pages they were coming up on? 7, financial management. So now let's look at, we've got our legal stuff taken care of. We've looked at what we need to do for marketing. Now what we need to do is really look at it and say, can we afford to do this? So thinking that the idea or concept will work and researching it are 2 totally different things. Because in my head, it's always going to work. So we always say you need to do a brain dump, which means you need to write things down. You need to do some form of research. Because I can look at a situation and go, oh my God, of course, we could go into business. That's definitely going to work. We can have these 3 customers. But you have to research it and really write it down. So let's start with personal credit. Because personal credit is what is going to get you to have business credit. And the better your credit is, the easier it is for banks to want to give you some form of loan. There are 3 companies out there that you can use for your credit scores. You can go to freecreditscore.com and you can actually pull it up, but have some idea of what your credit score looks like. Because when you are going into a bank for a loan or any financial group, they're going to ask you, what's your credit score? And if you sit there and you go, oh, I don't know, they're going to be like, okay, something's up. And then they get your credit score and they go, did you know it was a 720? I didn't. Like, they want you to know it. They want you to say, yeah, my credit score is a 720 and this is why. And I've been working to build it up. So they're looking for you to understand how it works. So good credit means equals financial opportunities. So pay your bills on time if you can. Sign up for automatic pay. Pay at least the minimum or more. Don't maximize your credit limit. That's one of the big things that's going to bring your credit score down, even though you may be paying everything on time. Apply for the credit you need. Biggest thing, watch your healthcare bills. So for years, healthcare bills were never on your credit report. Then all of a sudden, they came onto the credit report. Now they're off the credit report now, only if it doesn't go into debt collection or bankruptcy. So with healthcare bills, you can pay a minimum amount. Like if you pay $5 every month, you're never going to go into debt collection because you're making an effort to pay it. That's not going to happen in other things, but in healthcare it does. Startup costs. So this is a big one. You really need to sit down and figure out, what is it going to cost me to go into business? Because banks don't fund ideas. They want to know, do you have skin in the game? What have you done for all of this? So they want you to accept part of that risk. So the biggest thing, I have a sheet on my worksheet that I'm going to give you. But basically what you need to do is sit down and say, what are all the things that I'm going to need to purchase in order to start my business? And you do a huge list, and I always play a game because it's like anything that we do. If we are doing a construction project on our house, what do they always tell you? You're probably going to need 30% more than what you originally thought. So I think part of it is understanding whether you really know how things are working. So putting a big list together, do a guesstimate. Write down what you think it is, and then go through and you're going to research it, and then put the actual cost down, and then put the link with it. Because when you go for some form of bank loan, and you say, I need $50,000 for my inventory, they're going to say, all right, do you have an inventory sheet? And it better show $49,999.52, because they're not going to give you a loan for $50,000 and you say, well, I think I need $50,000 for my inventory. They want you to know exactly what you need. So even when you're doing your startup costs, even if you've already bought some of these things, highlight it so that you can show a bank or somebody that you're going to, hey, I need X number of dollars for startup, but I've already put X number of dollars in. But this is a great way to kind of look at how things are functioning. I did a case study for a cleaning company, and the big thing that I was going to do was wrap my car with advertising. I'm thinking, oh, what's that, $700? Comes back, $3,000. So here I am sitting there thinking, wow, for $700, I'm going to have great advertising. If $3,000 wasn't in my budget, that's a huge mistake. So that's why I want you to go through and investigate exactly what it is. Then we go through and we do monthly expenses. So now you want to start looking at things, and once again, brain dump. You want to come up with everything that you can think of that you may have to pay every month. And, Wi-Fi, cleaning supplies, owner's draw, donations, especially in the beginning, we're giving things away to get people to come in and buy. But you need to really put all of that together and then sit down and go, is this a monthly expense? Is it a quarterly expense? Is it a yearly expense? Because this is what we're going to use to kind of build out some of our cash flow. And then pricing. We've got a product. How do we know what we're going to price it at? So what is it costing you to purchase or to create? And then, are there other products on the market that are similar? And what is their price? Are you going to wholesale it or retail it? Because normally there's two different pricing structures. And then, what is the competitive rate? And I think you need to take, as much as there's 4 here, it's really 3 big things, and that is, what is the industry rate? What is it costing you? And what's your competition charging? And then you have to figure out what that is. Because you don't want to go into it and just go, well, my competition's charging $10. I'm just going to charge $9 and they're going to come to me. But if you're charging $9 and you're only making $3 at $10, now you're only making $2. How many more of those products do you need to sell at the end of the day? So really doing your research to say, this is going to work in the market space, but I need to do my homework. Break even. This is the best thing. And out of everything that you learned tonight outside of all my marketing, I want you to understand what break even is. Do you know how much of a product you have to sell in order to cover your expenses? And I ask small businesses this all the time. What's your break even? Oh, I don't know. I have money in the bank this month. That's not the answer. I want you to know I need to sell X number of these products in order to be successful. So we look at things and we say, if I sell an average product of $50 and it's $20 for me to make it. That's my cost of goods. It means $30 is going to go towards my expenses. Not the whole 50, only 30. I'm going to put that 20 to the side for right now because that's going to go back into my inventory so I can create more. So if I do gross sales, 50 divided by 30 is 1.66. If I go through and I say my monthly expenses are around 4,200, I'm going to multiply it out for the year, 50,000. Now I'm going to do break even. 50,000 times 1.66 means I need to sell $84,000 worth of my product in order to cover my expenses. So if I have 84 divided out, I need to make 7,000 a month. If each sale is $50, then I need 140 of those products to be sold every month. This isn't including the owner's draw. So now take this and say, I want to make X number of dollars per month. Add that in. If I wanted to make 50,000, I would probably have to double to 280 products. But you may look at that and say, 280 products, that's easy. We do that every day. Or January and February, we might only sell 100, but March, April, May, it starts to build up. And then as we get around to Christmas, we blow it out of the water. But you need to know that. You need to know that that's the way the industry works. But if you can understand what your break even is, it's a lot easier to say, yes, I can do that. Or, do you want to know something? I can't sell that many of those products, especially at that price. So do I need to stop and kind of reimagine what I'm doing? Or maybe there isn't a place in the market for it. Cash flow. Basically what cash flow is your checking account. What we want to see is, what is your starting balance? So how much money do you have in the bank when you want to start your business? And I want you to kind of estimate, how much can you do in sales that first month? And so we're going to put all the sales in, and then we're going to pay all of our expenses. We're not going to commingle. We're not going to pay for things out of our personal account and then our commercial account. We're going to keep everything in one account. So if we put in everything that we make, we take out all of our expenses, at the end of the month, we're going to have a new total. And that's going to become the starting, total for the following month. And that's basically all cash flow is. Bank or financial institute wants you to be able to identify how long it's going to take you to basically break even. Because they don't want to, be supplementing you and your salary for 3 years. I have some people that will send me business plans and say, I think by the 3rd year we'll break even. I'm like, good luck. I hope you have a lot of savings, because a bank isn't going to, they're not going to subsidize that for 3 years. So they want to make sure that you know when you're going to break even, and do you have some extra money off to the side that you may have to use in case you can't cover those things. Funding. This is the fun one. Because banks, they're going to hesitate to fund startups. And most banks will tell you, I was with a few down the Cape yesterday. One of them was like, yeah, full year. We want to see a tax return. And some other banks will say, it's at least 2 years, because we want to make sure that you have the ability to repay. So if you are starting, claim what you are making, because that's the other part of what happens. The first 2 years, sometimes you're not claiming all that money, and maybe you're showing a loss, and then you show up at the bank and you're like, hey, I'm ready to grow. And they go, you're not making enough money to cover a loan. And you're thinking to yourself, there's a little bit of money there I didn't claim. So the biggest thing is you want to claim what you're making, because at the end of the day, you're going to have to show your tax returns. If your tax returns are showing that you don't have the ability to repay, you're probably not eligible for a loan. So ways to get funding. 1, bootstrapping. You're paying for it all yourself. You're doing everything that you need to do. You're just going to pay for it. 2nd is friends and family. There are friends and family that are willing to give you money. There is things like the family bank. And it's money that people will borrow going into business. But please, 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 if you borrow any money from your family and friends, even if they say you don't have to pay me back, get onto some routine of paying them back. Get used to making a payment so that you know at the end of the day you have the ability to make additional money to pay off a loan. There are credit cards, but be very careful with credit cards today. 33%. You don't want to get caught in that situation. So try and avoid using credit cards. There are commercial loans out there, and there are what are called lines of credit. So the Building a Better Business program that I run, it's a boot camp. If you go through that program, or you go on to Harbor One U, they have a thing called Success for Small Business. You take either one of those courses, they actually have a line of credit for $5,000 that you can take out for your business. If you use it for a year, then you have the ability to go into $10,000. So that's something that is really cool for small businesses because you can be in startup. SBA loans. So SBA have what are called guaranteed loans. They are taking out insurance policies, basically, some type of insurance on that loan. Because when loans become very high, the bank sometimes doesn't want to take on all of the responsibility of the loan. So SBA will at least take on a portion of that loan. So they have what are called 7As, which are used for going into business, 504s, which are used for commercial real estate, and they have different types of micro loans and small loan programs. There are angel and venture funds and investors. Those a lot of times are for innovation and technology. The average individual who's going into business probably isn't going to find an angel investor to invest with you because they're looking for large sums of money to come back. They want, we're going to give you $5 million and we would like $25 million at the end of 3 to 5 years. So I like to mention them, but it's just kind of, if you have an innovative product that, has those types of opportunities, it's there. There's crowdfunding, so Kickstarter, Indiegogo, Fundable. That's great ways to kind of be able to put some money together for things that you can't afford. I will say when you are putting together crowdfunding, there are 3 things to remember. Number 1, you need an awesome video. You need to be able to showcase what it is that you're doing. You need a good giveaway. So what happens is for everything that you have, there's a price on it and you're giving something away with that. The third thing is you really need to have about 60 to 70% of the people who are going to invest in you, invest in the first 2 weeks. And then you need them to really go out and take that to the next level. Because you only have, I know some of them are like 45 days, some of them are 90, but you have a short period of time that you can get those funds going. And then there is the GoFundMe, which is usually more fundraising, and those they don't have to meet their minimums. So different places where you can go for funding, banks and credit unions, so term loans, business lines of credit, equipment loans, personal loans, SBA, so they do have the fast track loans, which go up to $20,000 max. Those are really like their small business loans. Micro and small, $50,000 to $350,000. They do have veteran loans. 7As can go up to $5 million in 25 years. It used to be they were 7 years for 7A. And 504s, which are the real estate, can go up to $5.5 million. There are high interest, so those are credit cards. There's Cabbage, Fundbox, On Deck Capital. They're high interest lending. Don't get caught in those. Those are the things that will take you down. And then there's crowdfunding and grants. I shouldn't say grants because grants just aren't out there anymore. The reason why I'm saying crowdfunding, there is something called Biz Empower. So Biz Empower is put out through Mass Development. If you are interested, if you have a business and you would be interested, basically you can crowdfund up to $20,000. You put in $10,000 and they will match $20,000 for $50,000 altogether. We see a lot of restaurants do it. We're seeing breweries, things like that, who can crowdfund. And it can't be something that, you put in 10 and 3 of your friends put in 5. You have to have a certain amount of people that also give to the fund. But grants right now we're not seeing. The only one that is left at this point is there is a small business grant out of Canton right now. So if you're a small business with a brick and mortar, there's a digital grant that they have running through the town. So lenders' expectations when you do go for any form of loan, they want a business plan, even if it's basic. And the basic is, kind of telling your story, who your mentors are, having that startup sheet, having your expenses, a quick cash flow. But they want to know that when you're going for a certain amount of money, that you know exactly what it is that you need. They want that executive summary, personal financial statement, business financial statement, credit report, 2 to 3 years of your personal tax returns. And this is why most startups don't get funding, is that you need 2 to 3 years of your business tax returns. And then they want the resumes of the owners and the officers. And these are the business resources. First is, a lot of them through SBA are here to help small businesses. So SBDC, the closest one around here, is based out of Fall River. So that is your kind of for this area. But Nancy Loud, who is one of the senior business advisors, she lives in Canton. So it's really easy to meet up with her. SCORE for this area is based out of Brockton, but a lot of them will do Zoom calls, or they will actually come out and visit your businesses, as will SBDC. Center for Women in Enterprise is the third one with SBA. Right now, they're functioning more in a capacity of online. I don't know if people had seen it, but they get dismantled quite a bit in January. Neponset River Regional Chamber is a great resource. I am a big fan of chambers. I have been for years. They've always been people that have helped me. We kind of work hand in hand. NeighborWorks Housing Solutions is who I work for. You have the town of Norwood. SEED, which is they're an economic development corp. A lot of times they will come in and do a lot of financing after you've been rejected from your regular bank. So if you go to your regular bank for a loan and they say, no, you don't qualify, they will normally send you over to SEED, and then SEED will try and put some things together. It doesn't mean that you've been rejected and you'll get it at SEED, but normally it's a rejection that will put you at SEED. And then Mass Development is, they just merged with MGCC, which is Mass Growth Capital. They're the ones that do Biz and Power. They have brownstone grants. There are some grants for co-work, and I know that there are a few grants, I think, for manufacturing right now. And then for education purposes, we always say that if you are new to business and you're not sure what you want to do or you need that guidance, and even when I say startup can be, for me, it's the first 5 years because you're still growing. But SBDC and SCORE, Center for Women in Enterprise, even working with me, that's who you want to go to first. Then there are programs. There's one called E4All. There is one that's normally based out of Fall River. There's one down the Cape, another one in Rhode Island. They're based around Massachusetts, most times in large cities. But they give you the opportunity to kind of work in a program for 12 weeks. There are some small amounts of money that you can, I don't want to say win, it's kind of like they have certain amounts of money that they can give away to small businesses that are proving that they're doing the work. So that is great for startup and for growth. If you are a business that has 2 employees or more and you're in a growth mode, that's when we kind of move you over to 10,000 small businesses. Their deadline is June 1st, and then their cohort starts sometime in September. But they're great for getting to that point where you've got a few employees, you need to grow, you don't know what the next things are that will get you there, and they'll work with you. And in each of these programs, E4All and 10,000 Small Businesses, you actually have mentors that will be working with you through the process. And that is it. So any questions? If there are questions, I'll take questions. If not, I'll show you the workbook. I see the workbook? Okay. So let's go over to, okay, this is it, I know it's looking small for me here, hold on. I'm gonna bring it up just a little bit. But Darshana will send this to you, so you're gonna get a link. If you want to use it in any capacity, I always tell people just copy the link. Copy the link, it will get everything to go live. But this is just all my contact information. Joe Collins came in from the town of Norwood and spoke at the first meeting. So this is his business page that he uses for the town. And then Tom O'Rourke was also here from the chamber, so this is information that will go with the chamber. This is the workbook. So everything that I talked about, every category is here with all the information that goes with it. If there are any links that I want you to be able to access, they are all right there. So everything from tonight is basically on the workbook. Here is your startup sheet. So if you're looking for something, you really want to sit down and say, hey, maybe I need to do startup. Here's what they're looking for. Maybe we need this. But this is basically what they want you to do. And I think the reason why I do want and need is I want you to be able to go through and just put everything possible down. And then you can step back and say, these are things that I'm going to need in the future, or I need them right now. Maybe these things I want to have at some point. But it also gives you a great list of things that you can work towards. The second is monthly expenses. Same thing. Go back through. If you're moving into a place that's a brick and mortar, call the gas company. Ask them, how much money was someone paying here the last time they were here? If they say, I can't give you that information, hang up and call back again. You will eventually get somebody to give you the information. But do your research on all of these things, because this is where we're going to take these numbers and eventually put them into a cash flow. I didn't add the cash flow because I figured that's more complicated. If I can get you to go through these two things, you can get in touch with me after and I'll help you put the cash flow together. I do a lot of teaching on AI. This is my AI cheat sheet. And because it has some questions in here, especially on prompts, and if you're trying to put things together, there are a ton of prompts that are sitting here. There are also some videos that you can watch of some people who talk about some of the prompts, and just a lot of different AI tools that you can use. So if you want to have some fun, just clicking through them, you can. And then lastly, this is something that goes with the Building a Better Business Bootcamp. There are 169 business resources in here. They go from SBA, so you're going to have all your links. It's going to tell you exactly what they do. It's going to go down into chambers of commerce. And what I've done is I've given you all the chambers in the area. Neponset River Regional is this area, but a lot of us belong to many chambers. With NeighborWorks Housing Solutions, we belong to like 10 chambers. So it's nice to kind of look at the chambers and what's there. If you've never been to a chamber, go to an event. Locally, for Neponset River on, Peter, help me out here, June 12th? 12th? It's a Thursday night. It's the 12th. At the Norwood Space Center, there's going to be a networking event in the back courtyard. So come. Yeah, it's summer kickoff. 2 chambers get together. A great networking event. Good food. They play yard games, music. A lot of fun. So please come. I will be there. You don't have to pay to go. Just say I'm going with Trish. I get to bring people for free. Trish sent me. These are some of the assistance programs from Harbor One U to E4All. Enterrise is another good one. But these are all the different organizations in Massachusetts. Then it's going to go down to, I'm a little neurotic, but then it goes down to cities and towns. So because we are in a lot of gateway cities, that information is there. But it's going to go down all the way down to some health places, real estate, some of the banks that are out there. So it's just a nice comprehensive sheet that if you ever thought to yourself, I don't know where to go next, go here. It's going to take you to where you need to be. So this is the workbook, but any questions on any of this?
Yeah, where can we get that information?
Which,
that's on the screen there.
Oh, we're going to send you the link. So Darshana is going to, I'm going to give her the link to this,
Okay.
because I was going to say, I can give you the link to the presentation. Normally, it's not going to give you anything more than what I've put in here, so I'd rather send you home with the workbook, and then that way you can walk through it yourself. And I've always said, once you have come to one of the classes that I teach, basically you can become a client, you can come in, you can meet with me one-on-one. I can help you put together a business plan. If you want to toss ideas around, we can do that. So there's a lot of great opportunity. If I can't help you, I can obviously send you to someone who can. But for the most part, you get to pick apart my brain for free. And that's what you get in a lot of these mentorships. So take advantage of it. There are people out there, as much as your family can be really important to you, they don't necessarily give you the best advice. They love you very much, but I haven't been in business before. So if you need to talk to people more, mentor who can say, yes, that sounds like a good idea, or you need to research that idea further before you do anything. Okay?
Would you recommend doing the startup sheet, monthly expenses, pretty much everything before you, so for example, I would like to start a restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
Would you go through this whole, let's say the whole workbook before you even decide to register your business?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I would. I think going through the basics is going to give you a go or a no-go. And I think what you have to remember is, depending on where you want to start your restaurant, are you building it from scratch, or are you going to buy something that's already out there? And really looking at the investment that goes behind it. Because I will tell you, banks don't want to invest in restaurants that are in startup mode unless you have a lot, if you're coming from another big restaurant, you have a huge personality that's going with, like, they're looking for those things of what is going to drive traffic into that website. And I think also being realistic in the cost. I blow people out of the water when we talk about restaurants, when we go $250,000 to $500,000. So part of it is get that together, because maybe part of it is you start small, and maybe it's just, you work out of a kitchen. Or there are, there are different cities and towns, sadly, they all are different, and sometimes you can start, you can be a home-based, what do they call it, not a farm kitchen.
Residential.
Yeah, residential.
Cottage.
Cottage kitchen,
Cottage kitchen.
yes. So there are some communities that will do that, and it's worth maybe trying it out. I would also say too, have you ever gone through Com Kitchen's cohort?
No.
It's worth doing. They're based out of Boston, and they do like a 12-week program on basically starting a restaurant. So it's definitely worth going to look into. Get as much education as possible. Even if you've been in the industry for a long time, showing the banks and mentors that you are serious, you're doing the education, you're doing all the homework, it works in your favor. Anyone else? Yes.
Is a lot of this advice like transferable to, like, if you want to do like a side hustle thing, like I want to sell something on Etsy or like on my own website, just like on the side?
Mm-hmm. I would do this with anything, because part of it too is if you sit down with us, like I have a lot of people that do jewelry, and sometimes it's just like jewelry is huge. It's so hard to come up. So sometimes too, you want to look at it and say, who am I up against in all of this? And I know for a long time people liked going into like the Amazon stores. They wanted to do an Amazon store. I tell you right now, unless you think you're going to sell $1 million worth of stuff or $1 million plus, you're up against Amazon themselves. It's nice. What I would say is come in and talk to us, and we can help you find different things. But starting a side hustle too can work. I mean, a lot of us start as side hustles, and then we move it into something that works. Yes.
How much of this, I mean, I'm assuming a lot of it is transferable, but how much of this would you do is transferable to a situation where, like in my case, I'm looking into or trying to prepare myself for in the next 3 to 5 years of starting to take over someone else's business that they started over. So stepping into those shoes, I want to make sure I'm prepared and understand what I'm getting into and all the steps I'm supposed to be following to make sure I don't end up in trouble by going into something and not knowing what's going on.
I would say definitely get a mentor. Even if you end up going through SCORE or whoever you go through, because at the end of 5 years, are you purchasing the business or is it being given to you?
It's like a succession planning with, I would likely be basically taking a loan to pay for, stepping in to take over it and pay for it that way.
Yeah, I would still go in and meet with someone, meet with mentors separately. Like I would say Nancy Loud's amazing. She's really like just kind of looking at that, but what we can all do is help you look at it and say, what industry is it? What is this place going to be worth at the end of it? And are you paying more for it or less for it? Or, and also, do you have the skills? And if you don't, how can we help you get the skills that you're going to need to do that? So just having those associations, and believe me, if you have to get a loan at some point through all of this, when you go back and you go, I've been working with SBDC for the past 3 years, and I've been working with this group for the past 2 years, and that's what they want to see. They want to see that you're educating yourself through the entire process. Yes?
You had mentioned, like if you go through a course, I forget the bank that you said, but they will then allow you to get a $5,000 line of credit.
Mm-hmm. You can apply for it.
Can you, what bank was that and what was the course?
It's Harbor One, and it's Success for Small Business. It's under their Harbor One U, and you'll notice that the voice sounds the same. So take advantage. I know that there are all sorts of banks, but they do a Voyager program, which is really good. It's more for businesses that are trying to grow, and they really do, there's a lot of great programs for small businesses with them, and I've had the opportunity to work with them for the past almost 15 years in a consulting capacity, which is working with small businesses. And it's been public, Eastern Bank is going to be taking them over. And I'm hoping that Eastern Bank still keeps that small business feel of what Harbor One had. Because it really is, I work with lots of banks and I love all sorts of banks. The program, I think, just has been really good. Yes.
One thing you said for digital presence is like having a blog. In your opinion, do people still like read blogs, and is that important, or is that just like an SEO thing?
It's a combination. I think if you've got a target audience that is looking for that information, it's great to put it out there. It also is going to grab other people that maybe didn't know you existed. They may find it in some article that you're writing. But yes, because the more pages you have on your website, the way it functions is you have a website, you have a ton of pages, and they're all being indexed in Google. When they get indexed, it means that they're going into a file cabinet. The more times you can get the bots to go through your website, the more times you get to be re-indexed in better places within the web. So if you're adding content on a regular basis, even if it's monthly, they come through your website and they re-index it. If you are just a static website, meaning set and forget, we have those. Hairstylists will come in, they'll have us build a website, and we set it up, and it's for local search only. They don't care. That's fine. But if you're looking to be found, adding more pages all the time is just going to help with your SEO and allow you to come up in different places in a search. Yes.
Can you suggest any resources for trying to track down lawyers? I've never had to hire one, and I've found that it's not as easy as just typing in lawyer on Google. I'm having a hard time getting any to call me back or anything like that.
So nowhere's a great place to start is a chamber.
Okay.
Go on to any of the, go over
What is
to,
it?
yeah. No, what's great too is a lot of times in chambers, they are smaller, it's not a big law firm, it's a smaller law firm, and there are, less people, but more availability, and they can help you. So I always say, start at Neponset River Chamber, and then you can call a few people. Even if you're not a member, feel free to call, the person, call Tom and just say, listen, this is where I live, this is what I'm doing. I've looked online, I can't find anyone. Would you know of anybody that I might be able to contact? Because we have connections to different places. So, you can reach out. I would basically say start there, and then, because that's going to get you someone who's local. Okay. Same with accountants. A lot of times people are like, can't find a small business, accountant. Yeah, so you can find them. Anything else?
So other than the business that we want to start, we do have a family restaurant that my mom has been running for about 6 or 7 years now.
Mm-hmm.
And we have somewhat of a social presence with Instagram and Facebook, and we do a decent job setting pictures and contacting people. But one of our key things that we do, other than the brick and mortar, is that we cater a lot for companies.
Mm-hmm.
That we're slowly building into getting into that. Do you suggest a presence in LinkedIn as a restaurant to try to reach those companies, more companies, or would that just be weird to have a restaurant have a LinkedIn profile as a small business?
No, it's funny. I always tell people you should be on LinkedIn. But what you have to remember is you have to have a personal profile, and then the business profile is attached to it. And there's nothing wrong with having something like that. I don't know if I'd be putting on your daily specials onto LinkedIn, but more what you would do is, just saying that there are catering opportunities out there, creating scenarios. I think the biggest thing that we always try to do today is don't, yell out a sale. You want to tell a story that's going to bring people there. But I have friends who are food bloggers who have a really cool presence on LinkedIn, and they've learned how to just, kind of get that recipe out there without it looking like you're on LinkedIn, why are you doing recipes? But if they get them out there the right way, it's really cool. So I think it's all about the approach, but I think LinkedIn is so important because it's going to connect you with all of these commercial people and people who are making decisions. If I'm somebody that's running events all the time and I'm looking for that, that place to cater, and I saw something come up on a storyline of you guys, being out somewhere and catering, I may look at it and go, hey, I need to get in touch with this person. So yeah, LinkedIn's huge. It has amazing power. And not only does it have amazing power, but you have to remember search engine optimization. If you have a name that's spelt differently or people know you by name but have no idea where you went, if you have a LinkedIn presence, they're typing in your name, and because I always say type in Trisha White, Mass, I'm probably one of the top 3 that come up. So even with a very common name like mine, I'm still coming up in a local capacity. And then people just click on my account and they go, oh, this is where she's working. Oh, here's her website. I always say, if you have a LinkedIn profile and you have that business account, you're 2 clicks away from getting over to a website that someone maybe didn't know about. Anyone else? Yes.
Another one.
Okay.
What about like Blue Sky? I know you mentioned Facebook and Instagram. Do people like get traffic from Blue Sky? I'm just thinking of like more and more things that you're adding, right? That you have to like check the box for.
Yeah, I mean, we look at like almost like a top 10. We say LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, Threads, Blue Sky, Reddit, X, Snapchat, and TikTok. And it kind of gets all of those. But I think you have to be where your people are. And I always know Facebook, you're always going to find people. Instagram, you may find a different demographic, but it's one of the biggest platforms that's out there. The thing that you have to remember is unless you're going to put money into a lot of these things, you're not getting a lot of traction the way you think you are. But I think being consistent in your posting at least allows people to know that you're functioning, that you're communicating. I always use them, if you're not going to put money into them, use them as a resource page, but also make sure, don't put a lot of words on them, because the minute there's too many words, Facebook automatically thinks it's an ad. Use pictures that engage with people, put most of your information in your status, and always do link in bio. The minute you embed a link today, you might as well just say, I'm just going to put this out there and it's not going to go anywhere, because they don't want you leaving the platform. So for a lot of the social media, we use Linktree, linktr.ee, and what that does is it allows you to set it up almost like a mini website. So now, like if you go onto the chambers, I run theirs. At the top it says, here are the next 2 events, and then the next thing is our member of the month, and then information about the chamber. But I'm able to put all that there, so when you click on that link, I could send someone over to a newest blog article. I can send them over to register for our next event. So what it does is it just gives them more options to be able to get to where they want to go, versus just going to your website and maybe not finding what they're looking for.
So,
Go ahead. I keep going. I love it.
Since you touched on Linktree, when for a small business, restaurant business, would you suggest Linktree for like those socials, other than having a website built, let's say, where Squarespace or Wix?
The biggest thing that you have to remember is Linktree is just something that it's a secondary thing to get people over to your website. It's not something that's searchable. So if you're just using that, people can search for you forever. They're never going to find you, because Linktree doesn't come up in a search. So that's why, we just did a whole program recently, and one of my big mantras was Facebook is not a website. You can't search for products and services by keywords and expect a Facebook account to come up. The only way I'm going to see your Facebook account is if I know the name of your business and it comes up. And if I go onto it and I don't understand how it functions, such as I'm looking for your menu, I'm looking for different things, it's not going to work. I have a client right now. If I ever meet up with her, she's using Facebook. That's all she's using. And we've told her, you need a website. You need a website. by the way, you need a website. And then she comes in and she says, I'm not doing well. We know, you know, like, and when you look at the Facebook account, you'd be like, I'm not sure I want to go there. And the food is supposed to be pretty good. I don't know. I can't get a handle on it. And you have to remember, people are going to research you before they show up anywhere, whether it's a product or service. So they're going to go through, they're going to go to your website, they're going to go through all your pages, they're going to see who you are, they might look you up on LinkedIn. I mean, the background check that they're going to do on you, the background check I do on people is scary, you know, because I'm looking for certain types of information. If it's not there, I move on. So if I don't see too many reviews or no reviews, I move on. And I'm a perfect example. Go look up my website on the web, on my Google business profile, 0 reviews. I'm old. I'm just to the point that I've told people, if people are going to hire me, they're going to meet me first. Because the people who do call me, not sure I want to work with them. You know, so it's okay for me because I have a strong, you know, network that keep me going, but I'm lucky. And, you know, I don't have to do those things. But if I was a little younger and I was really still growing my business and I needed to get more clients, I need to, you know, make sure that I'm getting people to give me reviews. You know, I would definitely have a different approach. Anyone else? Well, all my contact information is there. Please feel free to reach out. We're here to help. And go on the Ponset River Chambers website. Join me at the Summer Bash. You can network with people and see how much fun we are. Peter will be there. Yeah, so come. I mean, I think people need to start getting back out again and networking, because that's where you're going to meet others. And I'm an introverted extrovert, and if I have to go to an event, especially at night, I'm like, oh, I don't want to go. No, I am. I'm up all night. No, but I think part of it is just to get myself hyped up, and I've been going to them for so long. But then I go to them and I meet 1 or 2 people, and I'm like, oh. Like, I am so glad I went tonight. Like, that's my next connection. So I can hide behind a computer screen all day long if I want, but it's not going to get me the connections and the, you know, the followings that I have. What's this?
Get out of the tunnel.
Yeah, get out of the tunnel. Yeah. So hopefully I will see you at any of those. And like I said, please reach out if you need any assistance.
Thank you.
Welcome.